All right, so today we got the iPhone 17 Pro Max versus the 13 Pro Max. Is this worth the upgrade? Let's go ahead and dive into it. I think this is going to be, I don't know, a tough sell. I'm a big fan of the 13 series in general, especially the Pro models, and I'm curious to see what you guys think. Now, I'm not a big fan of the design on the 17 Pro Max. It hasn't really grown on me. I just am not a big fan of like the camera area. I think it just looks awkward. But let me know what you guys think. I do kind of like the two-tone color design that they went with. So, and you'll see this throughout, like on the orange one and I think like the blue one or something like that. So it's a silver and then you have a lighter color in the middle. I do kind of like that. But besides that, yeah, the design has really grown on me. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Now, this is something that is going to vary from person to person, but it really comes down to what you think, right? The weight also is a little bit lighter on the 17 Pro Max. It's 233 grams versus the 240 grams on the 13 Pro Max. So it is a little bit noticeable for sure. You have a matte finish on both of these phones. They're both IP68 dust and water resistant. You do have a few new buttons here with the hardware. This, whether you think this is gimmicky or not, comes down to what you think about it. So the camera control button, you can use the gestures to slide through. Some people would say that is gimmicky and unnecessary. I totally understand it. But you also can hold it down and you can use what Apple calls their visual intelligence. So you can take a picture. If you're out, take a picture of a restaurant, and it'll search for it. You can bring up the menu kind of quick. But basically it works like circle to search essentially, right? Now I think the action button is a lot more useful because you can program this to open up whatever you want essentially. So I think that's pretty cool. So this is, I think, very useful. So those are your basic, or major hardware changes. You also have USB Type-C on the 17 Pro Max as well. All right, so both phones are running iOS 26, and we have the Apple A19 chip on the 17 Pro Max. We have 256 gigs of internal storage, 12 gigs of RAM. On the 13 Pro Max, we do have the Apple A15 chip, 128 gigs and 6 gigs of RAM. Here's your single core and multi-core scores. My personal opinion is that the speed difference, like you would have to be like a heavy user because the 13 Pro Max is still really good. Like you would have to be like an actual gamer, but even if you're a mobile gamer, like the 13 Pro Max still does really good. So that's why I said this is a kind of like a tougher sell because it's running iOS 26 really, really well, guys. So just a little speed comparison, little app opening. And I would say, I guess one of the things that you will notice is that the 17 Pro Max is super cool. Like this thing does not really heat up. So that's something that is really nice. But as far as like speed difference, like, I mean, it's like maybe a second more. But like I said, the 120 hertz, it makes it feel very similar to the 17 Pro Max here. I actually beat it right there. So I would say for speed difference, if you're somebody who is like a gamer or it's maybe like a really heavy user, maybe you're doing like a lot of video editing on your phone, you need the render times to be faster. But the 13 Pro Max is in no way like laggy at all. It's not lagging, it's not slow. The heck, man? The animations feel extremely similar. So I would say, I don't think this is, for the average person, I don't think this is much of an upgrade, honestly. Like, you do have more RAM, so you can keep more applications in the background. So that's what I said, but how many people are going to be like constantly switching and doing heavy multitasking? As I said, it depends, but the whole idea of like the 13 Pro Max being like super slow or something like that, I don't think it is. Like, yeah, it's opening things up a second or two faster, but that's pretty much it. So even when it comes to games like PUBG, of course you're gonna get better performance on the 17 Pro Max, obvious. Looking at the benchmarks, but the 13 Pro Max still does a really good job as well. Like I said, I would say the biggest difference is probably heating, because this is still playing at 120 frames. It's playing it very, very well. It would probably be, if you're like an actual heavy competitive gamer, the hit to the battery probably won't be as bad if you play for a long period of time. I'm not a big mobile gamer, but that's one of the things that I've noticed. This does not heat up as much, but the 13 Pro Max is still very good if you're just kind of coming here, play a few matches, PUBG, Call of Duty, Genshin, you can still play. But yes, the 17 Pro Max is going to be definitely a more powerful and better device. It just comes down to, are you somebody that's going to take advantage of the power, right? Because if not, then the 13 Pro Max is still pretty fast. So my personal opinion about upgrading because of Apple Intelligence, I would say I would give Apple Intelligence more time, because it's actually not great. Every time I use it, especially compared to like Gemini and stuff like that, what Samsung is doing, it just seems like it's just not very smart. Like, just basic questions that it should be able to answer, it can't, and then it will kind of like try to use ChatGPT. It just feels like it takes way too long, and it defeats the purpose. So how much does the iPhone 17 Pro Max 2 terabyte cost? Yeah, so instead of just telling me, it pulls up an article. Can you tell me how much it costs? Yeah, so it can't really like give you a straightforward answer, and then you'll run into this problem a lot. How much does the iPhone 16 Pro Max cost now? Can you tell me how much it costs? Yeah, then it'll use ChatGPT. But yeah, and then like, it's just not smart, like, to get a basic question. So I don't like it. If you ask Gemini this question, it'll just tell you directly what it costs. I've showed this several times in my videos. I run into this issue a lot where it just doesn't answer basic questions right, and it takes forever to get an actual answer out of it. Check out these speakers on both of these, max volume. Start with the 13. So the 17 Pro Max does sound a little bit louder, but I'm actually pretty impressed with how loud the 13 Pro Max sounds. The bass quality is pretty good on here. It just pretty much sounds like the 17 is just a little bit louder. There's not much difference in terms of sound quality. It's just a louder speaker. So I would say the upgrade is okay, but I'm actually pretty surprised at how good the 13 Pro Max still sounds. So typically people upgrade for the cameras, so let's go ahead and talk about the actual camera specs here. The 13 has a 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel telephoto. It has a 3x optical with a max 15x zoom. You also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It can shoot in 4K 60. Yeah, then you have a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. 17 does have a 48 megapixel standard, 48 megapixel periscope telephoto with 4x optical zoom. This one now goes all the way up to 40x max zoom. And then you also have a 48 megapixel ultra wide. It also has 4K 120 FPS video. And then you also do have an 18 megapixel selfie camera that also has a cool little mode to it, where if you flip it, you can take landscape videos in portrait mode, and also, you know, photos as well too. And also for the video, you do have a dual capture now, which is something you don't have on the 13 Pro Max. As far as the battery performance goes, of course you're gonna have much better battery life on the 17 Pro Max, and I wouldn't even say much better. It is, you do get better screen on time, but my 13 Pro Max still has very good battery life. So that's how I would gauge it. If you feel like you don't have bad battery on the 13, then I wouldn't upgrade. I wouldn't make this upgrade then. I'm at 86% battery health. This phone can still get you through the day pretty easily. But yes, the 17 Pro Max, it's got a bigger battery at 5,088 milliamps. It charges a little bit faster as well too. You have the Qi 2 MagSafe. The 13 Pro Max, 4,352 milliamp hour battery, 15 watt MagSafe. And then it is also Qi 2 wireless charging. But yeah, guys, I would say that my opinion is if you weren't impressed with the cameras and you feel like you're still getting pretty good battery life on your 13 Pro Max, I wouldn't upgrade at all, actually. I would just keep my 13 Pro Max and see what they offer next year. But if you are, impressed, you want the Apple Intelligence, you want the, better zoom and slightly better cameras. Yeah, and also you do have, a little bit better battery life, a little bit more power if you're a heavier user for sure. But it just comes down to, do you want to spend that money? Because I think the 13 Pro Max is still a very good phone. Be sure to let me know what you guys think.